Give me some minutes of your time, and I'll make failure emotionally irrelevant. Most of your fear isn't about mistakes. It's about being seen making them.
You're not afraid of failing. You're afraid of looking small in front of people who aren't paying your bills, won't carry your stress, and won't remember your name next week. The problem isn't messing up. The problem is living like a prisoner of other people's judgment. And the uncomfortable truth is this: courage doesn't appear out of nowhere. Confidence isn't a mood that randomly shows up on a good day. Those things are built through strategy, control, and repetition. Here are 5 principles inspired by Niccolo Machiavelli. Not the soft, motivational version. The strategic version. The kind that doesn't care how you feel in the moment, because it cares about what you become over time. Principle 1. Repetition creates power, not talent. Fear survives because most people treat a single attempt like a final exam. They behave as if every move needs to be impressive, as if the world is constantly grading them. That's the illusion that keeps you weak. In a Machiavellian frame, no one becomes formidable by getting it right on the first try. Power is forged through consistent, deliberate repetition. People who try something once feel the entire weight of success crushing their chest. People who repeat it make mistakes normal, technical, routine. The average person asks, "What if I embarrass myself?" The strategist asks, "How many repetitions until this becomes boring?" Every real skill starts awkward. Speaking, leading, negotiating, deciding under pressure. But repetition has a quiet violence to it. It turns discomfort into familiarity. It turns fear into information. The less you repeat something, the more dramatic it feels. The more you repeat it, the more mechanical it becomes. Repetition removes the theater from action. And where there's no theater, fear has nothing to feed on. That's why dominant people seem calm. Not because they were born special, but because they've already lived through the embarrassment you're still trying to avoid. While others wait to feel ready, you act knowing the early attempts will be messy and, in the long run, almost irrelevant. Only those who repeat gain control. Those who wait stay trapped. And here's the part people ignore. Repetition also builds identity. You stop asking, "Am I the type of person who can do this?" Because your behavior already answered it. Each rep becomes evidence, and evidence is stronger than motivation. The goal is not to feel brave before you move. It's to move until bravery is no longer required. Principle 2. Results don't define you. Patterns do. Most people build their identity on a single outcome. One mistake becomes, "I'm incompetent." One rejection becomes, "I'm not meant for this." One failure turns into a life sentence. That's a childish interpretation of reality. In the logic of power, an isolated result means almost nothing. What matters is accumulation. Patterns, volume, trajectory. People judge snapshots, not the process. They see the moment, not the months of repetition behind it. And when you live trying to avoid judgment, you start acting to impress instead of acting to build. That kills long-term strategy, because now you're performing for approval instead of constructing competence. A strategist wouldn't judge a ruler by one lost battle. They would judge the campaign, the direction, the ability to adapt, the consistency of action. The more you attach your identity to a single outcome, the more fragile you become. Every attempt starts carrying absurd emotional weight. And that pressure is exactly what makes you freeze. You begin to treat normal feedback like a personal attack. You confuse a bad result with a bad self. Here's the truth. People who act a lot don't fear mistakes because they understand something you don't yet. In a long timeline, most mistakes disappear. They blur into the background. The only mistake that stays visible is the one you never corrected because you never returned to the field. And the more you act, the more you realize that failure is usually just information delivered with a harsh tone. When you understand the game is volume, not perfection, failure loses its emotional bite. It only terrifies those who barely act. Principle 3. Your value isn't in today. It's in the future. Your building fear dominates people who measure their worth by what happens right now. One bad day becomes their identity. One awkward moment becomes a diagnosis. One stumble becomes proof. That's not strategy. That's emotional slavery. In a Machiavellian view, the present is a point on a long line. Serious people don't define themselves by one scene. They define themselves by direction, by what they're constructing, by what they're becoming. When your self-worth is anchored in the now, every external fluctuation becomes an internal threat. And that's why people become desperate for approval, because approval becomes a temporary painkiller. The person who bases their value on the future they control doesn't collapse from temporary setbacks. They already know where they're going. Failure becomes a detour, not a destination. A report, not a verdict. A bad moment becomes something you correct, not something you worship. Ask yourself this, honestly. Are you judging your life by an isolated scene or by the entire story you're still writing? Because if you only respect yourself when things go well, you've outsourced your identity to luck. Strategic people don't do that. They anchor identity in what they can build, not what they can't predict. Principle 4. Avoidance feeds fear. Action suffocates it. Fear of failure doesn't grow when you fail. It grows when you imagine failing, then retreat. Most people confuse avoidance with relief. They avoid the hard conversation, the risky move, the public attempt, the uncomfortable step. And yes, in the moment, they feel lighter. But that relief is poison. Each delay sends your mind a message. This is dangerous. Run. And your nervous system believes what you repeatedly prove to it. Unfaced threats inflate in the dark. The longer you postpone, the bigger the fear becomes. Your imagination exaggerates the risk. The story becomes monstrous. Fear gains time to organize itself. Action destroys that illusion. The moment you move, fear loses its mystery. The risk becomes concrete. You stop wrestling with fantasy and start dealing with reality. And reality is always more manageable than the horror movie your mind produces at 2 a.m. The strategist doesn't wait to feel ready, because readiness is built after motion, not before it. Acting early reduces the emotional cost. Delaying multiplies it. And the first move doesn't need to be heroic. It just needs to be real. A phone call, a message. One uncomfortable minute that breaks the spell. People who act govern time. People who avoid become slaves to it. And here's what avoidance really does. It trains your brain to respect fear. It teaches you that fear isn't authority. Action reverses the relationship. Action teaches fear to sit down while you decide anyway. Principle 5. Comparison is a trap. And it manufactures failure before you even try. Fear becomes most efficient when you start comparing your path to someone else's highlight reel. The moment you measure your trajectory against someone else's, you hand over control of your strategy. You abandon your real circumstances for a fictional standard. You start living inside an edited version of another person's life, then wonder why you feel behind. Comparison does 3 things every time. It ignores context. It devalues your progress. It weakens your decisions. And when your decisions get weaker, fear gets stronger. Because fear loves uncertainty. It loves confusion. It loves when your focus is split. It loves when you keep checking the scoreboard instead of running your own play. Strategists don't compete with ghosts. They observe when useful, learn what matters, and immediately return to their own construction. Focus creates clarity. Clarity creates action. Action creates power. If your fear spikes every time you look outward, the solution isn't positive thinking. The solution is moving your attention back to what you control. Your reps, your decisions, your next step, your timeline. Kind. And if you want a practical rule, Compare only to your past self, and only to measure direction, not to punish yourself. Whoever controls their focus controls the game. And whoever controls the game doesn't fear failure. So remember, repetition creates power, not talent. Results don't define you, patterns do. Your value is in the future you build, not the mood of today. Avoidance feeds fear. Action suffocates it. Comparison steals focus, and focus is sovereignty. When these principles lock together, something changes. You stop reacting and start governing. Other people's opinions shrink back to their real size. Noise. Failure loses weight because it was never final. And fear loses territory because it can't survive inside strategic clarity. If you want this to actually work, pick one principle and apply it today. Not soon. That's how fear dies. Not from understanding, but from repetition. Keep your standards high, keep your ego small, and keep your actions consistent. Your future self is built by what you do while you still feel nervous. If you want to keep learning how to think calmly, strategically, and long-term, subscribe to In.SideOut. If you don't, keep scrolling.